Why would you want to read an article like this? I first imagined myself as a teacher when I was a young student in grade school. This first year of teaching has been a fabulous adventure.
How am I going to establish my relationship with the kids? It's about building trust. It's about caring. There's an enormous amount of joy. There is, in my eyes, no better profession.
First day of school loomed in my mind for months. I wasn't quite sure what to expect.
The biggest challenge is for new teachers, and I think there are several, is getting to know the community and getting to know their children really well. And I think that that's a very important thing for new teachers. Then the curriculum, to know what the children are going to be expected to know and be able to do by the end of the year, and just understanding how to put together the lessons so it all makes sense.
Yesterday was a holiday.
It was a holiday.
One of the first things we did during this year was come up with our classroom rules.
You know, we started off with rules for the rug, rules for the classroom, and then rules for center time, so we could have clear understanding of what exactly we were supposed to be doing.
These rules were not my rules. These are the rules that my community of learners devised themselves. They were able to enunciate what they felt would be important for a learning environment in the classroom. We can refer back to, hey, what are we doing here and why are we doing it? Let's figure out a way to get back to working underneath these rules. All right, you may get together with your partner. I had been advised by my colleagues not to jump right into curriculum, but to focus on team building sorts of activities, getting to know you. One of the things that I've built into most of my days is a morning meeting. We have a chance for all the students to come together. But if I start off in the morning by giving them a chance to share whatever it is they want to talk about, their hockey game yesterday or their pet dog, it enables them to form connections because they learn about one another. And then the more we learn about one another and know one another, the more respect we can have for one another.
I think they have to focus on the kids. It's about building trust. It's about caring. It's about figuring out what kids need. And in your first day, in your first week, you're trying to establish all of that. And you do it by being well prepared in the curriculum. You do it by being clear on your own values so that children know what is expected of them and how you will support them. And if you can communicate that to children, then they'll trust you if you're consistent, and the rest will fall into place.
Raise your game, every one of you. Just remember who you're around. You know, we're one big family and we'll get on each other's nerves from time to time. My most challenging moments so far this year haven't been around teaching the curriculum.
There's one friend who's not ready. I have a friend who likes to kick chairs when he gets angry. Dealing with him, it's not a one-time thing, it's an ongoing, everyday thing.
Behavior management is not simple at all, but there are definite things that you can do that make it more difficult for yourself.
What I've tried to do above all is to certainly not explode in the classroom and let my frustrations be known. I'll seek advice from my colleagues. I've done everything from having individual children or the whole class stop and reflect on a specific behavior or act. I've had them write notes of apologies to me, to each other. I've had natural consequences take place. Reactions, thoughts.
If you're having a problem with a child and the first time a parent ever hears from you is when something negative happens, they immediately go on the defensive. But if they have a relationship with you beforehand and they see that you're a rational, reasonable person, they're going to help you.
I've always believed that teaching is not just an activity between the teacher and the student. I want to make a connection with the parents as much as I want to make a connection to the student.
I do a weekly newsletter, which goes home every Friday. There's, you know, what we did and some important information and upcoming events, activities. That has the phone number, the email, so they can always contact me.
Spending your first month of school making phone calls in the night, 1 or 2 phone calls a night, and saying, hi, this is who I am, this is how we're running our class, pays dividends down the road.
We only have a couple bus kids in the morning, so we see most of our parents in the morning, which is nice. We also have parent volunteers that come in to help with writing twice a week when they can come. So they come in and they help us scribe and sound out letters, which helps us go a little faster. But it's nice also to have them in the classroom.
I was given a very valuable piece of advice before I started my first year of teaching. You're going to be extremely busy. Eliminate all outside commitments. And I heeded that advice. It's been tough, but I've caught myself. I said I really need to honor this commitment to myself, to really focus on what I need to do to have a very solid first year of teaching.
I feel like I can always be doing something else, which is in reality, you can always be doing something else, but you have to figure out what's realistic.
Use your principal or your supervisors, use your mentors, and use your neighbors. And, listen to advice.
Don't be afraid to ask for help, and don't be afraid to borrow someone else's resources. Collaboration is key, especially when you're a new teacher and you don't really know what's going on.
There are lots of times when you feel overwhelmed. You shouldn't expect to be perfect. I tell all of my teachers, whether they've been teaching for 30 years or whether they've been teaching for a year, I want to know where you're struggling, because my job as an administrator is to help you reflect on your practice and help you help kids.
Think outside of the box. Be able to not to leave your comfort zone, whether it's, like I don't like worms, I personally don't like them, and it is part of the curriculum. They're going to do them, just not with me. So, just be okay to try new things.
The biggest thing is to be reflective of your work. To be positive about yourself, but also think about what went well, what would I improve upon and learn.
Differentiating instruction is really a hard thing to do.
An inchworm, it's 1 inch. Remember, count your worms so you know how many inches you have. Today, when we did the inchworm activity, I chose numbers based off of those who I knew could maneuver a higher number. So my English language learner got only a 1 inch, because that's, still a little tricky. For writing, if I know someone's capable of sounding it out and looking at the word well, I'm more likely not to help that person. Whereas some really need you to sit there and foster every sound and every letter with them.
I group students often based on what their needs are at that time. I can have my assistant work on one sort of task. I very carefully pick another task that I will work with the small group on. And in that manner, I'm able to have some one-on-one time and identify kind of group needs and meet them. When the light bulb goes on for a student, it can really go on, and sometimes it's very visible. And there was one girl who had been working really hard on whatever the skill was, and all of a sudden it became clear to her, and she had this verbal outburst. I get it, I understand. And I was across the room, and I was so excited just to hear that. And inside I thought, yes, I got through to her.
Yeah, you got it.
So it was very exciting.
Good.
Lesley prepares new teachers very well.
I've used so many of the plans and activities that we did in my writing course. I've implemented them in my classroom.
Pretty much everything I learned is utilized now. I fell in love with math and science, which I never thought I would, because of Lesley. So now I come in here and I'm like, okay, I can do math and I can do science, and I'm confident and I'm not, scared to really teach it, because I know I love it.
I always advise teachers to remain close to a professional community and keep the dialogue around teaching and learning open. The new teacher community, which offers them online access to Lesley professors and maybe more important, each other, is a great step in that direction.
I'd say for first new teachers to take all the professional development you can get. I'm taking right now a course for teaching second language learners. I also do the literacy collaborative course. You can get college credit for very, very cheap.
Beck said he would print off my report cards. Thinking back to the beginning of the year, what I find is I'm more efficient at my preparation. I have a better sense of what it is I'm trying to accomplish and how I can do that. I have also found that if I don't actually get everything in a lesson, if it's not tied up perfectly with a bow, it's really not the end of the world, because I always have tomorrow.
It's been, not so much of a roller coaster, but a lot of realizing, okay, I'm going to do that differently. And next year I'm going to do this unit, but I'm going to change this. Or next year I just won't do that unit because that didn't work out so well. So a lot of reflecting on for following years to see what's going to change.
Without a doubt, my students have taught me so much about teaching. I think one of the most important things that I'm here to do is not teach the kids the content, but teach them how to learn, and to hopefully convey a love of learning something new. They won't feel that way every single day, but if they can feel that way more often than not, I'll feel very satisfied.
Obviously, you picked this profession for a reason. You wanted to be with kids, and you want to work with curriculum, and you love teaching. So enjoy it. Don't ever forget why you came to teaching.
I've always been that person. They said, well, you're not going to make any money. I said, well, I don't want to make money and be miserable all day. How often does one of your coworkers tell you they love you every day? That's what happens to me. I have 20 kids and they tell me they love me every day.
There is, in my eyes, no better profession. There's an enormous amount of joy. So if there's one thing that I really would want to get across about that first year of teaching is to hold on to those moments of joy, because that's really what it's all about.